Brian, he was the easiest kid I've ever known to care for. He loved helping people. I don't know anyone who, by the time he became an adult and was married, that knew more people in this city than he did. We would go places, people would say, "Hey, you're Brian Cooke's dad, aren't you?" And I'm like, "That's right." I mean, yeah. He was a connector of people, was always going an extra mile to do something, whether it was giving them, a little bit of extra money so that they could pay their electric bill or something like that. Brian and his wife, Jenna, and our granddaughter, Sophia Grace, live only about 8 doors down from where we lived. He had gone into landscaping. When I was doing some of the bivocational stuff in terms of contracting, he would jump on with me, and so we would work through the winters together. We had a fantastic father-son relationship. It was a Friday morning, drove down to pick Brian up, and we were going to Mattapan Avenue in order to finish some work on a home. As we got there, we noticed that the back door had been kicked in. Walked into the bathroom, and the toilet in the bathroom had been busted open. Cleaned all this stuff up, and we were almost through, and he left. About a minute later, I heard 2 pops, and I thought first they were firecrackers, and then I thought maybe that was a gun. I mean, it wouldn't be unusual. And so I yelled for Brian, and he didn't answer. And all of a sudden, a bullet went through my right side and exited my left side. And the guy shot me through the door. And he pushed the door open. He said, "That's right, unless you give me all your money, I'm going to shoot you again." And he immediately shot me again, this time also through the abdomen. I was in a 4-foot by 6-foot room. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. And he shot me a 3rd time, and thankfully it didn't go through me, but it went through my navel. And he stepped about a foot closer and shot me here, and it came out here. And blood began just pouring up into my throat, and I couldn't swallow it. And so I knew then what had happened to Brian. I knew those 2 shots had to have been Brian, because Brian is nowhere to be found. And the guy looked at me and just took off running. In my prayer, I said, "Father, I know Brian must be with you by now, and I know I will be soon." We knew one of the ladies at the coroner's office. I prayed that she would be the one dispatched, and that she would be able to go and tell Linda what had happened. I prayed that Linda would then be able to go and tell Jenna what happened. So I crawled and crawled and crawled to get to the front door, and when I did, Brian was about 15 yards to the northeast, face down, and I just began screaming and yelling his name. First ones there were North Charleston police. One of them came to me. The other one went to Brian and said, "This one's gone." Sunday morning, woke up, and the guy was trying to get the ventilator out of my mouth, and I began yelling, "Linda, Linda, Linda, Linda." When she came through those doors, the first thing I said was Brian, and I just kept screaming his name. She didn't realize that I knew he had died, and she told me, "Brian's gone." I said, "I know." And we hugged, and cried. When we released one another, I looked at Linda and I said, we cannot do this on our own. This earth has lost someone who literally loved everyone. I had a number of choices. One of them was to give up on God. The other one was to stay in mourning and grief and suffering and just focus on those negative aspects. God wouldn't let that happen. I had sent a lot of people over to Life Resources over the course of my time early on as a pastor. All of our sessions were focused on the truth. Speak the truth. Don't try and mask it as if you're Christian enough to deal with this. And so we learn to, sob sometimes. These people care about brokenness. They've taken the time to train themselves to where they feel your brokenness and your pain. I don't know any organization that is prepared to go as far as God will allow them to go, as Life Resources is. There was a time, almost 3 months of anger in my own life towards God. Maybe 10 weeks after this occurred, I woke up and here's what I said to God. I said, I'm not angry anymore, am I? And he said, no, you're not. Would I rather have Brian back here right now? I would. But I cling very much to the first chapter of John, the idea that the light has shined in the darkness and the darkness hasn't overcome it. It can't overcome it. I know that from experience, both with Life Resources and the myriad of friends who have spoke truth into our life about who Brian was. But things are as they should be, getting to the point where we laugh a lot about things Brian did and the events we were with Brian in, rather than cry about his loss. Linda and I, and we still go back and we read these posts that people put up about him. We don't even know who the people are, but they knew him.